Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm continuing my series on Ria's book, The Ladder of Influence, 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. And again, Ria Story is my wife. This is a book she wrote, a phenomenal book she wrote and published in 2023. I'm on chapter 3 of 30 today. Chapter 3 is titled Climbing the Steps. And pretty much that's what the whole introduction so far has been about. Some of this I touched on already. Be a little bit of a recap, but there's quite a bit new going to be here. But that's what this, remember there was an introduction, and the first 3 chapters are really a continuation of the introduction to the Ladder of Influence. Well, then starting the next episode, we'll dive into the first step. And I'm turning here into the front of the book because I want to tell you what's in each step so you'll have an idea. Because we're going to go through the 5 steps and break them down. Each of the 5 steps has 5 chapters. That's what we'll be starting next episode. We'll be starting with influence based on self-control. That's the first step. And then that's the first chapter in the first step. Then every chapter's got relative to their level, they got the same kind of series. For first step, it's going to be climbing to the first step. Then it's going to be the next chapter will be the first step at home. Then the next chapter will be the first step at work. And then the final chapter is going to be mastering the first step. So basically, that's what each one of them is going to be about. You're going to get a description of the step, and then you're going to get an explanation of how you kind of climb that step. And then you're going to get a breakdown of how do you climb the step at home, then how do you climb the step at work, and then some good pointers on what it means and what will kind of indicate to you that you've actually mastered that step. So that's what's coming. But today we're on chapter 3, Climbing the Steps is actually the title. Just a little bit of recap right here as we get going. Ria says you must start at the bottom of any ladder in order to climb to the top. The ladder of influence is no different. How high and how fast you want to climb is up to you. However, be careful as you climb. You can easily slip and fall. And you can fall off at any level. I've been talking to you about that. That's why you always going to be climbing. Because right there, what she just said is what's going to happen. We're going to slip and fall. Sometimes we don't fall far. Sometimes we just slip. We kind of keep hanging on. Sometimes we slip and fall down one step. Sometimes we slip and fall down a couple of steps. Sometimes we slip and fall down every step. That's when I hope I don't ever do that one. But I know I've done it in the past, but I don't like falling to the bottom, especially once I learned how long it takes to climb back up after you've fallen. And I can tell you, the higher up you get this ladder of influence, I mean, you get up to the top and fall off to the bottom, you may not ever get back to the top. Because people understand if you made it to the top, you know how wrong whatever you may have done is to cause you to fall off. And people lose a lot of trust. It takes a long time, a lot of trust building to get up to the top of the ladder of influence. And you may not have time to do it again. The first time you did it, you may have not ever climbed to the top and fell off. So you didn't know what you didn't know. So it was, people forgave you and allowed for you to have been maybe not such a good person of character in the past. But once you grow and develop that character and you model that character and you move up, then when you make a mistake, you made that mistake knowing how big a mistake it was. So you lose a whole lot of trust, and then you got to overcome it. And for some people, they may never overcome it. Maria says, your influence is built over time by your choices, your words, your actions, and your interactions. That's a pretty big deal right there. Each interaction is making a deposit into or taking a withdrawal from the trust account of the relationship. And remember, I just said that singularly, relationship with no S on the end. Because you remember, you got a ladder between you and every other person. There's a ladder of influence. Every person that you know, that you interact with, you got a unique relationship with each one of those people. So your choices, your words, your actions, your interactions, it's all, you're making deposits and withdrawals with all these different people. You're moving up the ladder of influence or down the ladder of influence with all these people. And the thing about building trust is, let's say I had a relationship, whatever kind of way that it happened, I got a relationship, with shared values with multiple people. No one shares every value with everyone. So you're drawn to people because of your shared values. It may be because of one shared value, or it may be because of many shared values. But let's say I was working on some type of team, and mainly we're together because the shared value is accomplishing that mission, whatever that mission is. But in life, we may not have been connected. We may not have had a relationship if it wasn't for this one mission that we're on. And because we have a shared mission, we want to see something happen. We want to accomplish something together that we both want to make it happen. That a lot of our other values may not be shared. We may have a whole lot of conflicting values outside of the mission. But because we're on the same page, trying to accomplish the mission, we have that relationship. So the reason I'm saying this is, let's assume there's two people that I have relationships with. All three of us have the shared values of accomplishing this mission together. But again, outside of that, our values may not be aligned. So I could be doing something with one person that builds trust. That exact same moment, the other person could be observing it. And because their values are different, I could be creating distrust. That's how complicated this thing is. I can be creating trust with one person and distrust with another person at the same exact time. And I'm being the same person, saying or doing the exact same thing. Both people are witnessing and seeing the exact same thing. But the reason it builds trust with one person is because they value how I'm doing it, or why I'm doing it, or what I'm doing. The other person could not value what I'm doing, or how I'm doing it, or why I'm doing it. That's how complicated it gets. That's why as we grow, no matter how awesome we may think we are, we got to know there's a lot of people that we're going to be creating distrust with. We got to figure out who we are, where we are, who we want to become, where we want to be. And then that's the ladder we want to climb. And we're going to create influence with those people. Just like the stuff I'm talking about right now. There's people who don't care anything about this. There's people who don't want to grow and get better. There's people who they got so much pride and ego. They're narcissists. They ain't worried about other people. They're self-centered, self-focused. They hear me talking about all this stuff, they have zero interest. If their boss told them to come and listen to me speak somewhere, I'd be creating distrust the whole time. They would feel like I was trying to manipulate them into being something that they're not. And I'm not trying to manipulate them, but their boss may be trying to manipulate them. That may be why they're in there. But I tell them real quick, if you don't want to be in the room when I'm talking, if it's up to me, you go now, because I didn't come talk to you, because I understand this ladder of influence. I understand where I'm trying to build my influence. It's like I shared in an earlier episode. I'm not going to go to their level so that I can build influence with them. I'm not going bow down to them. I'm not going to become narcissistic and prideful and full of ego so that I can hang out with narcissistic, prideful, ego type people. Ain't going to do it. Ain't interested in it. You may be interested in it. And if that's the case, you got to figure out how you got to lead your life to associate with those kind of people. But I ain't into that. People of high degree of character are not prideful. They're not narcissistic. They're not self-centered. That's what our content is, to help you not be that way. But there are a lot of people like that. They don't like me. They want the world to revolve around them. I used to be one of those people, so I know a lot about those people and how they think. I had to transform myself. I used to think the world revolved around me, and if it didn't, I was going to make sure that it did. And everybody around me knew that. So someone who has climbed higher on the ladder of influence will automatically have higher standards relative to integrity, respect, and influence in relationships than someone who has not climbed as high. And that's what you got to know. The higher you've climbed up this ladder of influence, the quicker you'll be able to tell if someone else has also climbed, or if they're trying to shortcut their way to the top. A lot of times you'll see somebody, maybe they got a high degree of competency, but they got it by stepping all over people, walking all over people, using and abusing all kind of people. I've seen that a lot in the blue collar world. There's a lot of blue collar leaders who are doing good in their life. They make a lot of money. Some of them at the top, they got big 10,000 square foot houses and maybe bigger, and they got planes and they got big fancy boats, big fancy houses. They take big fancy vacations. They do all that stuff. They got a big bank account. They got a big retirement account waiting for them. They got all the stuff, but they got it by using and abusing people. A lot of them got it by being out of control. There's a lot of people working in companies. I've been in some companies, and you see these people, self-centered, narcissistic people in leadership positions. A lot of people end up in leadership positions because of that. They want control. They want power. They want authority over people. A lot of people like that end up in law enforcement. It's kind of like there's two kind of people in law enforcement. There's the kind that want control and power and the badge and the gun. And then there's the kind that truly want to be there to serve people and help people. And there's usually, it's a mix of those people. I remember my uncle was a police officer for a lot of years, and I don't remember if I've shared this story on any of the other podcasts. It's hard to remember 7 years worth of podcasts. So you might be listening and have listened to all of them. You're like, why does he say the same thing over and over? It's because I can't remember what I've said on the 400 and something episodes. But I remember I was a teenager, and I went into the locker room at the police station, where all the police officers keep their gear when they come into work. Kind of like when you go into school and you got your books in a locker and that sort of stuff. So went into the locker room with him, and he went up and turned the combination and opened up his lock on his locker. First thing I said is, why y'all got locks on your lockers? He kind of looked at me. He's like, what you mean? I said, we in a police station. You guys can't trust each other not to take each other's stuff. He's like, no, we can't. And that made a big impression on me. I mean, I'm 55 years old now, and that's probably nearly 40 years ago. I ain't never forgot that, because it just stood out in my mind. As a teenager, I'm thinking the cops are supposed to follow the law. They're making sure everybody else does. You would think they're capable of being trusted. But I mean, I know today that ain't even a chance of that. What I know is people are people. That's why it's easy to know now why they have locks on their lockers. But as a young teenager, that kind of surprised me to see that. So we had to have that talk. But you can build influence with some people who share your values, even if they don't have a high degree of character. But they won't take you very far in life relative to developing a high level of influence. So just think about that, what I was just sharing about the police officers, the cops. they got shared values. That's why they work in the same place. So somewhere along the lines, even the good cops and the bad cops, somewhere they have some overlapping shared values. That's why they end up on the same team. So let's look at the bad cops. So the bad cops, they obviously have overlapping values, but they got more between each other. They got more shared values. Whatever it is that makes them a bad cop, they on the same page. So the bad cops are going to have more influence with each other than the good cops are going to have with the bad cops, or that the bad cops are going to have with the good cops. And the good cops going to have more influence with each other in the same way because they have more shared values. So good cops and bad cops going to have some shared values. Then all the bad cops are going to have more shared values with each other, and all the good cops are going to have more shared values with each other. So what Rhea's saying when she says you can build influence with someone who shares your values, even if they don't have a high degree of character. So the bad cops don't have a high degree of character. They got a very low degree of character. They're in the law business, and they're breaking the law a lot of times. They're doing things they shouldn't do. They're treating people ways that they shouldn't. You know what a bad cop is. But bad cops can develop influence with other bad cops. But it don't mean it's going to take you, even if you're one of the bad cops and you have a lot of influence with a lot of bad cops, it doesn't mean you're going to have a high level of influence and a high degree of character, and you're going to be able to influence people who have climbed the ladder of influence up into the second, third, fourth, and fifth step. See, a lot of bad cops, they still at level 1. They ain't even mastered level 1. They can't even control themselves. That's why they bad cops to begin with. They trying to control everyone else, and they can't control themselves. But that's what they like, is control. They just like control others. They don't like to control themselves. So I want to share with you a quote from Dwight Eisenhower that Rhea has here. And she actually opens chapter 3 with this quote. And the quote goes like this: "The supreme quality for leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible." That's what you got to understand as you climb the 5 steps on the ladder of influence. Every step is building and reinforcing your integrity. At every level, you develop a higher degree of integrity, and you strengthen your integrity. And then as you gain experience and you're able to maybe step up, if you fall down off of that step, you're able to climb back up it because you understand how it works, what took you to get there. You also know, though, the higher you get, the less you want to fall off. Like when you're working on controlling yourself, when you haven't mastered that first step, controlling yourself, you don't care if you fall down or not, because you ain't went very far. Nobody expects much out of you because you don't have a track record of being able to control yourself. So it's almost irrelevant. You don't even care. There's a lot of people who's stumbling around in this area their whole life. They get a foot on that first step, try to control themselves, and then they slip off and they lose it. So they ain't got much to lose because they ain't ever gained much. But when you understand what it takes to climb each one of these steps to get you higher on the ladder, you know, without integrity, no real success is possible. Not with people of high character. Again, I talked about this earlier. There's some really bad people in the world who are mega wealthy, and they got a lot of influence with a bunch of other bad people in the world. But we're not trying to teach you how to have influence with people of low character. Everything Rhea and I are teaching you through our books is to help you figure out how do you grow and develop influence with people of high character. Because you can have a phenomenal life. You can become a millionaire, billionaire, whatever you want to be, however much money you want to have, how big of a house you want, however nice of a car you want. You can have all that stuff and still treat people really, really well and have a lot of influence with some high character people. So you still can have all the stuff you want. But probably if you keep climbing this ladder and you get up into step 4 and step 5, where you're developing other people, especially in step 5 when you're focused on a contribution of service. Somewhere in there, you're probably going to care less about what you have. You'll have enough. You won't be chasing the next big thing. You don't care. We just sold Ria's car. We bought her a brand new car, but we just sold her other car. It was a 2011, and now we wore that thing out. And now we got a 2024. Got a new car. We may wear it out too. Who knows? But we just don't care. We live in a modest little house. We don't care. We used to be chasing how big of a house can we get? How nice of a car can we get? All about the stuff. And I think that's probably a phase. Ria talks about it all the time. A lot of people, you got to grow through that. I used to waste so much money on nothing. Just stuff to make me feel good, make me think I was looking good in the eyes of somebody else. I don't even care about that anymore. And part of it's because I've been climbing this ladder of influence. You may be hearing it now thinking, well, that ain't me. I still want. I want all this stuff. And I don't want to hear you telling me that I can't have it. I ain't telling you can't have it. I'm trying to help you get it. I'm just telling you at some point in your life, you may not want it anymore. That happens with a lot of people just simply as they get older. But it also happens with younger people as they climb this ladder of influence that we're telling you about. Because you get so focused. Just like our book deal, Ria and I speak. I mean, at one point, 2016, we got paid $20,000 to speak. That same year, I decided I don't like that model. And we started doing our special offer. Right now, that special offer is any company who orders 300 or has us come in and speak. We got a package deal. They get 300 books. We speak for up to 2 hours. We pay all of our expenses to go speak. 300 books. If you go on Amazon and you order 300 books, it costs you $5,400 to get 300 books. This speaking deal, if you want 300 books, you want us to come speak in any of the 50 states up to 2 hours, it costs you $5,400. Basically the cost of the books. We pay all of our expenses. We come speak to you and your team. Basically for free. It ain't for free though. People don't let us fly for free. People don't let us stay in their hotels for free. So we having to spend profit from the books to come speak to the people. But that's part of us. That's what we want to do. We want to help people. We want to walk in the room and people know we ain't here to make a lot of money off of you. We're here to help you have a better life. Your leaders invested in you by buying you these books, handing out the books, paying you to be here, paying for this room. A lot of times they have to reserve or rent a room off-site. So it's a lot of cost goes into it. Usually the $5,400 for the 300 books to get us to come speak basically for free. Most often that's the lowest cost of the whole process. You put 200 people in there and pay them for a couple of hours and rent a room and feed everybody lunch. You spend way more than $5,400, but you're investing in those people. And that's the message we like to make sure that the people get when we're there talking to them. We tell them the reason we're in the room is because your leader told us and showed us they were willing to invest in you. And we told them if they would invest in you, we would too. So 2016, that's the last time we've been paid to speak, $20,000 to speak. We still do some occasions we get paid $10,000 to speak, but I try to get people to take advantage of the book deal. And the book deal, you could go to bluecollarleadership.com/special-offer, or just go to bluecollarleadership.com, looking for the menu button up there that says special offer, and you can learn all the details about it. But sometimes we speak multiple days at places. Sometimes we speak 4 hours. Sometimes we speak 8 hours on the same day. And basically, anybody can add on another hour of us talking for another 100 books. So for $1,800 more dollars, they get $1,800 more worth of books, which is 100, and we'll stay for another hour. So sometimes companies want us to be there they got a lot of people. Like one company had about 450 people. So to get us to speak 8 hours was 300 books for the first 2 hours, then 100 for each other hour. So It ended up being 900 books. We do that quite often. And people get 900 books. Everybody in that company got 2 books. And we spoke for a full day, did a full day workshop. We've had companies do it for 3 days. Again, all kind of options. But the point is, we've created our business, our model. When we first started out, it was like, man, I can't believe I'm getting paid $20,000 to speak. Now it's like I'm trying to speak for free. I kind of outgrew chasing the money. I've had people pay me $750 an hour per hour for coaching and mentoring on how to build a business just like Rhea and I have built. I quit doing that. I do it for free now. That's why I give you out my phone number, 334-728-4143. I speak to you for free. I ain't trying to sell you nothing. If you want to buy something and I got a book or I got a course or something like that, that'll help you, I'll tell you all about it. But I don't want you to call me so I can sell you something. I might introduce you to something. You might decide to purchase it. I just want to help you. That's step 4 and step 5 stuff relative to the ladder of influence. Remember, I'll give you a recap real quick because we're about to go next episode. We're going to dive into the first step. Just to recap, the first step is control of self. Second step, character development. Third step, competency development. Fourth step, commitment to developing others. And the fifth step, contribution of service over time. And that's where Rhea and we're always working actually on all these steps all the time. But we're sustaining most of the steps, but we're still working and climbing on the 4th and 5th step, developing others and contribution of service over time. Yes, we still had to work on controlling ourselves every day. You really don't leave a step behind. You got to maintain that step once you master it. Character development. That's why we're reading and developing ourselves and being intentional all the time, because it's constant work. Like staying clean. You can't take a shower once and you clean the rest of your life. You need to be showering every day, taking a bath every day. Just the way it works. Competency development. We're constantly, for us, we teach and speak about character. So while we're working and growing and developing our own character, we're actually developing the competency to grow and develop other people and help support them in their character development. So that's the journey we're on. Hope you're enjoying the start of this. And so the next 5 episodes, we're going to break down and dive into the first step, control of self. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership Series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.